Assessment are critical to educational process. Without them, teacher would never know when to move on to the next subject or help student understand the concept better. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. This is Ray Ambino Jr. of Carmen Cotabato, and this afternoon I am tasked to discuss to you the rule of assessment in teaching decision making. In this time, we will be able to find or to identify what is assessment, and the next we will discuss about the 5 essential features of assessment for learning, and also we will be talk a little bit of types of assessment. Assessment is the key component of learning because it helps students learn. When students are able to see how they are doing in class, they are able to determine whether or not they understand the course materials. Assessment can also help motivate students. So that is how really assessment works. That is how assessment helps students to identify their progression, and also assessment of student can really helps them to grow and to understand more better about the concept, about the topic that teacher is giving them. So we have here what is assessment first. So assessment is learning occurs when students and their own assessors, students monitor their own learning, ask questions, and use a range of strategies to decide what they know and can do. So students have these options or idea to how would they will deal with this specific kind of strategies and how to use assessment information. This would a bit of absorbing the assessment negatively or positively, and that is how students will learn from their mistakes, or students will be able to do much better in the context of assessment. Assessment and teaching decision making allow schools and districts the chance to use assessment in support of richer learning opportunities. That is how assessment works, not only for students but also to the teachers and to administration, to the district. It really helps them how to identify problems and how to deal with it, so that they will be able to have a richer learning opportunities, not to only to focus on students but also to the learning, since education is a continual process. So that would be a give and take opportunity. So we have here what must we accomplish for an assessment to truly support learning and instruction. Assessment for learning is commonly used phrase to describe the idea that assessment can be employed in service of learning rather than simply measure what students have learned. So that is what would we accomplish to an assessment. So we have to employ a certain. So this time we will discuss the 5 essential features of assessment for learning. So first, we have the coherence with the enacted curriculum. Assessment must be tied to a specific curriculum. So that would affect a lot of aspects. So assessment should be focused on specific curriculum so that hindi ho nawawala at hindi tayo nawawala sa track. So that would be guided with the instruction. So assessment provide feedback also. We know that the feedback is very important. Sabi pa nga nila, feedback or feedbacking is breakfast of champions. Now, do you agree with that? So that is how assessment works. It should be tied to a specific curriculum or learning progression used by guided instruction. Next, we have the item and task that supports deeper thinking that connects to the decision making. If our goal is to create an assessment system to both measure and support deeper thinking, we must ensure our test question elicit to evidence of the complex thinking we desire through students. So we must focus on the goal that assess both measure and both deep thinking of our students. So that is the challenge of teachers. We must focus on the assessment that not only supports on the measure of what our students learn, but rather it focuses both measures and support their deeper thinking, so that students will be able to learn better to the concept that the teacher given. Okay, so next we have here the result that are the right grain size for support useful feedback. So following the first criterion, the result must be presented to a grain size at which teacher and student can take an action. So ibig sabihin ho nun ay talagang kinakailangan natin na himay-himayin ang mga feedback so that we will be able to give students a right action to the assessment na ating gagawin. Not only for student, can also be helpful for the teacher. So that is how the result should be in a right grain size to support useful feedback. So in every detail of the feedback is very important. So we must maximize those feedback na binibigay sa atin. Okay po. So we have here the fourth one. We have the result that are timely. So we have to use the time efficiently and effectively. The speed of returning result is related to grain size. The connection with the enacted curriculum, people must enjoy the instant gratification of getting mid-year or end-year testing, resulting back quickly. So if you notice, some of us here are having their agony of waiting, diba? So it is much better kung yung result ho ay babalik agad, so that we will be able to enjoy this instant gratification na tinatawag natin. So yun ho yung maganda doon, no? Sometimes if we evaluate ourselves, diba, mas maganda yung right after or during ay nalalaman na natin kung ano yung dapat nating pagtuunan ng pansin. So that is how it really works. No? So we have here the fifth one, results that are informed instruction. So the formative assessment letter suggests the result must be presented in a way that teachers and students understand what to do next. So this is how should teacher know, or how teacher do. So we must focus on the assessment that the learner can identify what will be the next right after the assessment that the teacher have given to them. So yun yung dapat natin gawin. Hindi lamang po sa students but also sa teachers. So that is the 5 essential features of assessment for learning. So this time we will be discuss the types of assessment, and I will be presenting to you a short video that shows the types of assessment. Assessment in education. There are various types of assessment, and here are the top examples. First up, we have formative assessment. Use direct teaching process in its quick check for understanding. Some examples include thumbs up, thumbs down, and brainstorming. Next, we have a summative assessment. It measures long-term academic goals. Examples include midterm,
finals, unit test, and project, and others. The next assessment, we have diagnostic assessment. They're used to get prior knowledge on the students and to plan future instruction. An example would be a pre-course test or the pre-test. We also have formal assessment and strict and specific testing procedures and rules. One example would be a standardized test, such as a quarterly exam. If we have formal assessment, we also have informal assessment. These assessments are assessments that are lapped in supporting data and use normal classroom settings procedures. An exit ticket would be an example. We also have behavioral assessment. It may sound unusual for some teachers on special education. Behavioral assessment are very common, and the best example is functional behavioral assessment. Next up, we have rating scale. Estimate to gain understanding on subject or topic by giving them a scaled score. Rating scale is often used to professor evaluation. Emotional assessment. These are used for more emotional disturbed students and all often written simple as observation. Example includes checklist and students questionnaire. We also have the so-called screening assessment. Screening assessment is used to identify students in danger of failing. Screening is found in RTI, which is response to intervention. Authentic assessment, they are assessment designed to take place our authentic settings, like to speak in a large crowd will be an example of an authentic example for public speaking class. The next, we have the performance-based assessment. They assess to know the ability to complete work. An example, a student creates an application for computer programming class, or maybe students perform specific activity in PE class. Group or individual is also an assessment. You can do also other the way you administer assessment, whether it will be individual or group. Sometimes students need space. Next, Criterion References Test or CRT. Students are graded based on the amount of content they have mastered. CRT are usually created by teachers and use simple classroom settings. And lastly, we have the norm references. This assessment, on the other hand, is based on a comparison of the students against similar demographic.